this closure is definitely, I think it's a step in the right direction.
It's a landmark deal. I've done all of this stuff like since 1977. I've seen freezes, I've seen algae blooms, red tide, brown tide, blue-green algae. The freeze of 83, 89, 98, 2021. Nothing has threatened the balance of this resource like this harvest has.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Skiff Wanderer podcast. Today, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Mr. Chuck Naiser. Chuck is the founder and president of a group called FlatsWorthy. And today on the podcast, we're going to talk about FlatsWorthy. We're going to talk about how Chuck got his start into all the conservation work that he does along the Texas coast. And then we're going to end talking about some of the more famous guests that Chuck has guided for in the past.
And a law be true.
So let's just right off the bat, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a little town called East Bernard, which was a German, Czech, Bohemian farming community. It was 45 miles from Houston on the west side.
Okay.
On the Bernard Rivers. And it was, at the time when I was growing up there, I didn't think it was so cool because all the pretty girls, not all of them, I'm not going to make any of the girls from East Bernard angry, but there were more of them in Rosenberg.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I ought to live over here. But when you reflect back, you think how lucky you were to grow up there with the people and the culture and all of that.
Did you grow up fishing?
I did.
Yeah.
But it was all freshwater. Catfishing on throw lines in the rivers, bass fishing on 2-acre lakes. And, we had one 5-acre lake we fished all the time. But every once in a while, I had an Uncle Louis Nizer who had a boat, and we'd go to the coast about once every 2 years, and I'd come down here, and I thought, man, I don't know what I'm going to catch. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And a farm pond is going to be a 2-pound bass.
When did you make the move down here full time?
Well, my wife, I met her in college playing bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Prettiest thing I'd ever seen. And she's a great fisherman.
Yeah.
And so her family liked to come to Rockport, and to make a semi-long story short, we started coming, after we got married, we started coming here a lot. We bought a house in here in 80.
Yeah.
And moved here full-time in 92.
When did you start guiding?
93.
93?
Yeah.
Was that something that you'd always thought about doing, or you just kind of fell into it?
No, I guess there are all kind of answers to that, but I'm not an office guy.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I never was happy doing that. And truthfully, a good friend of mine, Jay Watkins, who is top flight guide here. He and I were friends, and I'd come down here on the weekend and I'd see him at Tackle Town, and I'd say to myself, when I leave here, this scamp's got it all to himself, and I can't have that. So I wanted to come down here just to harass Jay. Yeah. But I wanted to do it. I did. I felt like it would be me.
Yeah.
And at 48 years old, when I started all this, it's like, look, find something, be happy.
Yeah.
And the rest of it doesn't matter if you're not happy.
Right.
And so I just did it to make myself happy.
Yeah.
I did.
No, I think that, I don't know, I have my happiest, best days when I'm on the water. And anything I can do to keep me out there a little bit longer is something I'm working for.
Well, I like people, and it's the best thing probably I ever could have done. I met so many nice people and built long-standing friendships with them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. No. So you started guiding in 93. When did you start really taking on the conservation role in the community that I think that you have?
Well, in 1977.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's when I joined the GCCA, which was a CCA.
Yeah.
I wasn't a founder of it, but I was probably member 200.
That was the original CCA.
Yes.
That formed into CCA.
See, nobody knows that was called the Gulf Coast Conservation Association.
Yeah.
And it, when they decided to go nationwide, that's when they changed the name.
I got you. No, I mean, I definitely, like, I grew up with CCA, hearing about CCA, and you never heard about GCCA. I didn't hear about it until I moved down here. And then I started, getting involved in conservation down here, and suddenly it was everywhere.
Yeah, well, we banded, they formed that, Walter Fondren and all that group, organized that in 77 to confront the commercial fishermen and what they were doing to the resource as far as the population of trout and redfish. They were just decimating it.
Right.
So, and I saw it here.
Yeah.
And so you go like, we got to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that was the whole mantra, the whole deal. And I became very active in it. I was president of the Missouri County chapter. I helped start the chapter in Corpus. I actually became vice president for a while. So, I don't know, it just always was the right thing to do.
Right.
And so that started the conservation deal with battling the Redfish Wars.
The Redfish Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a real battle. I mean, this deal here is, there's I haven't heard of any confrontations, but that was blood and guts.
Yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about it? Because, like, I've heard some stories, but...
What stories have you heard?
Just tires getting slashed, people getting threatened.
Cabins burned, I had my house shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They didn't like us. They didn't. And the game wardens, that was cowboys and Indians. It was people like Johnny Karstad and Ernie Lerma and some of the other classic game wardens that I think so much of. They fought hard fights.
Yeah,
they did. They've had netters try to run over them. They all had skiffs back then. None of the big boat stuff. Those 15-foot skiffs that they ran around in.
So just to backtrack real quick, the Redfish Wars, that was the effort to ban gill netting in the bay system. And trout lining?
Trout and redfish. Yeah.
I got you. Which, there was a big commercial industry at the time.
Yeah, we were opposed mightily by the Texas Restaurant Association, fish houses, all kind of people didn't want to see that happen.
That's just so interesting because you watch what's going on with the oyster reefs, and it seems like a lot of the restaurants are behind closing down the reefs and finding them more sustainable.
I don't know. I feel it both ways.
You see it both ways?
Yeah.
So the Redfish Wars, when was it? That was in the...
Well, they started in 79, and they started in 77, but the law wasn't passed until 1981 with House Bill 1000.
That's a long 5 years.
It was a battle because that had to be done legislatively.
Yeah.
And you get away from the coast, and the legislators are not keyed into our problems like the coastal ones are.
Right.
And then we had key coastal, key coastal legislators who are against it. So it was a tough fight.
How was Texas Parks and Wildlife, were they set up how they are now with having a commission that votes on?
Yes.
But that still had to go around. They still had to go through legislature.
Yes.
What was the difference?
The difference in what?
Like between, so like right now, the decision to close down Oyster Harvest in Ayers, Carlos, and Mesquite just goes through the commission versus the Redfish Wars where it had to go through legislature.
Well, the Parks and Wildlife has precedent to close minor bays to oystering. So they don't have to go, for this, they don't have to go through the legislature.
I get you.
Now, for some of the other aspects of this, there will be. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because this
is a multi-part deal.
Right.
Short-term, closure, long-term, manage the resource.
So for those of you that haven't been following along with a lot of the stuff that I've been posting or FlatsWorthy's been posting, there's basically a ruling that's going to go to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission on March 24th, and they're going to vote on whether or not they're going to close down Mesquite, Ayers, and Carlos Bay to all oyster harvesting. That's commercial and recreational.
That's a permanent closure.
And it's a permanent closure.
It's closed now. I hate to interrupt you, but it's closed now due to the matrix that they have in place for based upon the size of the oyster that they go out and find when they do sampling.
Right. And do you know off the top of your head how many harvest areas they had to close down this year?
No.
So I don't either.
No.
I know.
Well, it's basically Copano, of course, St. Charles was closed, Aransas, Mesquite, and I really don't know how far to the east it goes.
Yeah, I don't.
There's basically nothing left.
No.
It's closed.
No, basically the season's had to, more or less the season this year for oyster harvest has had to been closed down. So what Texas Parks and Wildlife does during these harvest seasons is they go out and they take sample harvest and they compare that. And what they're looking is to make sure, I think it's, they're looking for 3-inch oysters at least, which is the minimum they have to be to keep them. And they're basically taking these surveys to make sure that the bays are still producing the right sized oysters so there's not undue destruction caused to these oyster reefs if they don't have enough of the right size oysters to make it basically worth the oysterman's time to harvest off those reefs. And the survival of the reefs itself. Right. And so this year it was for a while, it was like every other week another harvest area was getting closed down.
I don't know. I've been so focused on trying to get my little Baffle Reef area closed. I've had blinders on. I mean, I'm old. I got to focus on what I'm doing. But it's not only the oyster; it's the structure of the reef.
Right.
And I don't want to get ahead or do anything, but that's the idea that a reef has structural value has not been part of the matrix.
No.
And all of us have brought that point forward to emphasize the value of the structure of the reef to the resource. Which,
I mean, if you take a look at the economic value of that structure, it almost like so right now, I'm going to try to see if I can get the numbers right. 1 acre of oyster reef to the commercial industry is worth about $800. That same acre to the recreational industry is worth about $23,000.
That's the numbers that are quoted.
Yeah. And when I hear those numbers, it just blows my mind that it's taken us getting to the point we're at before someone said, like, we need to stop this. We need to reevaluate how this practice how these oysters are being harvested.
The difficulty of this whole deal, I think everybody would be more sympathetic to what we're doing if they could see the damage that's been done. Yeah. It's underwater.
Yeah.
So it's not like trees being cut down in a forest.
Right.
It's oysters on the bottom.
And it's not like they're beautiful coral reefs with all their colors and colorful fish.
Well, nobody dives for them. They go down to Albies and buy some.
This closure is definitely, I think, it's a step in the right direction.
It's a landmark deal. I've done all of this stuff since 1977. I've seen freezes. I've seen algae blooms, red tide, brown tide, blue-green algae. Oh, the freeze of 83, 89, 98, 2021. Nothing has threatened the balance of this resource like this harvest has.
Right.
Nothing. This pales everything. Everything else had a 2 or 3 year recovery. This is 50.
You've been fishing these same reefs since the 70s. That's fair to say, right?
First came here in 1967.
How much change have you seen? Because, like you said, it's a lot of it's subsurface. But I mean, I've heard, that podcast. Shane has a podcast with a couple of the game wardens, and they talk about reefs that once they could get out and they were knee deep, and now they can't even get out of the boat on. So what have you seen personally?
Well, the same thing, but it's all of the reefs in Carlos. You used to have to, if you left the mouth of the St. Charles and going to Jaybird Point, you had to be aware of where you were because Thompson's Towhead, Poverty Reef, all those reefs, they were at the surface. They weren't below it. They were at it, and you were gonna hit them. So you had to dodge all that stuff, and then you go like, where am I? All of these landmarks are gone. Back in 67, 68, 69, 70, I walked at night floundering all of the reefs in Carlos.
Yeah.
And I walked from San Jose Island all the way across to Carlos Dugout, and then on low tide, walk across Carlos Dugout and walk the rest of it all the way to Bloodworth Island. And Carlos was filled with the little reefs, and they're all gone. But you could see them all the time. I mean, heck, the water was clear and it was shallow, and except during the spring and in the fall, they might be a foot in the water, but that's it. Now they're gone.
Now they're gone.
Yeah, they went in there with drag lines on boats and dug them up for years.
And that's one of the things that, like you said, that's really been brought to light with this whole situation is, they're not just taking oysters away. They're taking the whole reef system. I mean, the oyster is just a small part of what gets pulled off these reefs. And those oysters, they get bagged up and shipped out of state, and we don't see them again.
Well, I mean, there's statistics on how many pounds of material are taken out every harvest season, but you can't, I don't know how to say it, but the vertical relief on the reef, that's kind of a double word there, but the height of that reef above the bottom is what creates the dynamics of current and water flow, slows the velocity of water going across, it allows the oyster more time for filtration. In all of these papers, I've read so many things, but they will say that the efficiency of the oyster in filtration has everything to do with its proximity to the surface. In other words, an oyster in 8 inches of water is more efficient than an oyster in 8 feet of water. And it just stands to reason. So all of that has been, you take 75, 80 boats. In 2016, we had an anomaly in our water level. And that allowed the fleet to come into St. Charles Bay. And there used to be a big cluster of reefs near the mouth of that. And 74 boats got on there, and they dredged it out. What do you think happens to that?
It's gone.
A sack of oysters weighs 110 pounds, okay?
Okay.
There's 8 pounds of meat in that. The rest is shell. So, go figure. You keep taking it out, and they have to, by regulation, return a certain amount to the bay, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
If they don't do it, they have to pay something. It's a pittance.
It's not enough to make them keep them honorable.
Entire reef systems, Copano Reef, Lap Reef, you can just go on and on and on. Michael Weiss, the ex-game warden, went out and chronicled all of the reefs. He measured them to determine their depth and compared. We've compared. I've got old maps over here in the corner with navigation maps. I mean, it's just a simple deal. If you dig it, it's going to be gone.
Yeah. What's the future look like? So right now, the big thing that we've got, like I mentioned, is getting these bays closed. But I think that's just a first step.
The future, I don't know. I think there are a lot of branches to the future. I think one good thing about all of this is that it brought a lot of people together with a common cause, and that's always good. I was kind of hoping that the freeze of 21 would create a little more conservation-minded in a lot of people, but it didn't.
No.
And I think enough people are on board with this, and they're united and they're part of the process, and they see how it works, and so hopefully they'll be a little more attuned to conservation issues and knowing that something can be done about it.
Right.
I think the future involves a real focus on mariculture. I like to eat oysters. I mean, I've always. I mean, all last year I kept at least a quart in my icebox. Everything I come in from fishing, I'm going like I'm eating raw oysters. And I bought them one time this year, and I'm going like I just wanted to see if they still tasted good. They weren't tainted, but that's it. That's all. That's all I've done.
Yeah. No, I know that. I think in April, the mariculture, the farm that's set up in Copano should be having their first harvest, should come out in April. I know that the third permit recently got issued for the third mariculture farm on the Texas coast. I'm hoping that we start seeing a more stringent lease program that puts a lot of these oyster companies, holds them to more responsibility for the reefs that they're harvesting off of. But yeah, I think like you said, like we're just barely tip of the iceberg on really getting a handle on this.
Well, the first thing you do when you get in a situation like this, stop it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's my focus. And I think a lot of other people, Shane and others, are at that point. Let's stop it, and then we'll think about the other things.
Yeah.
Because there are other things, and there are other things to do, and there are people involved, and almost innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
Let's deal with that. Let's stop it first.
Yeah. No, that was, listening, being at that public hearing last week and listening to both sides, speak their little piece on their thoughts on the closure. It was heartbreaking just to listen to, like you hate to go in and take away somebody's livelihood, but we're at a point where it's not sustainable.
Well, there are two aspects to that.
Yeah.
Number one, they aren't owed a living.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, nobody owes me a living. But they have families, they have homes, they have cars, they need food. And they don't have a lot of them don't have the ability to be mobile in this deal. Mm-hmm. And so they're in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
But I first want to stop what's going on.
That's where I'm at too. Yeah. Oh no, I think about them and it's like, man, we gotta stop, reevaluate, and then
we will.
Proceed.
We will. It's but that'll be a fun part that we can deal with later on. But for right now, stop it.
So the last thing I really want to say is just if you guys are available and you have the time, it would mean the world to show up in Austin. The vote's on March 24th, right?
Yes.
And the hearing's on March 23rd?
Correct.
So if you're available March 23rd, just to go and support everyone in Austin, it's going to be at the Texas Parks and Wild main office. I don't know what time it's at, though.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. So if you're available March 23rd, 9 o'clock, be in Austin.
Well, it would be great to have a lot of support there because I know there'll be a lot of the commercials there. Mm-hmm. Make your comment. there'll be a public comment, and there'll be a lot of people talking, and so I don't know how much time everybody's going to get. It won't be much. But your written comment is just as valuable as a spoken comment.
Definitely.
So go online. I think everybody I know CCA has, and we have to send out a link to where you can go make that comment, and please do.
Yeah.
That is important.
No, and I'll have a link in the show notes for everybody too, so they can go in and sign it. Honestly, like, I really encourage anyone, if you have the opportunity to go to one of these public hearings and just you get the chance to really see, I think, conservation in action. You get to really see the whole process that's involved with trying to save these areas or save these reefs. And I really would encourage anyone that if you have the opportunity and you're available, anytime you see one of these public hearings come up, you should try to make it there, because I think it'll do a lot of good for you to really see the whole process through.
Well, it will. And in this day and time when we have so many people using this resource, and that's great. Look, I don't own a drop of water or a grain of sand, so I can't tell anybody anything, but I think everybody realizes that there's a lot of pressure out here, and we have to be conservation-minded.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about FlatsWorthy.
Okay.
When did you start FlatsWorthy?
2015.
2015?
Yeah.
What was the goal you had in mind when you started
it? Not this.
No, I know.
Well, I wanted to create, God, there's so many stories of this deal, but I wanted to create a dialogue about what was going on. What I saw was a deterioration in the way people were acting, the things people were doing to the resource that I didn't think was either fair chase or good for the resource. And it just, I didn't know where it was headed.
Right.
You know, there's some movies of Mad Max and all, you know. It was getting bad.
Lawless, yeah.
So I just said, I can either not do anything or try to do something. And I figured, well, I'm going to try to do something.
Yeah.
So, it's just an effort, you know.
Yeah.
And FlatsWorthy as a movement. It's something that it doesn't come up with answers overnight, but it doesn't quit.
Right.
And so you take forward a narrative and you keep saying it, and you don't let people discourage you. And people say, well, you'll never change that. And you go like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to try.
I'm going to try.
So.
No, you know, it's so easy to go out and buy a boat and get yourself on the water. And it's really difficult to then learn how to be on the water the right way, how to navigate the waters, how to, you know, where you should run, where you can't run, you know, how to interact with other anglers on the water. And that's one of the reasons that really drew me into FlatsWorthy was I wanted to gain more knowledge on how to be more respectable to others when I was on the water, which I think is one of the main core focuses.
It is. You know, we started off having public meetings and getting everybody together and talking about these issues, and then Harvey came along and it interrupted all of that. And then so we got involved with some other issues, and then COVID comes along. So in the meantime, we made a video on vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
We made one on boat ramp etiquette. And we're doing one on, we've already shot a lot of the open water etiquette. We're going to do one on back lakes etiquette, and we're going to do one on my favorite topic, burning shorelines. And I'm going to do that one.
Oh, no.
Yes. And I've done that. And it's all wrong. And just because I did it doesn't make it right today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak out against it because it's the worst thing there is. One selfish guy burning every shoreline in the bay and having that the best of everything for himself. It ain't right.
No, I mean, I've watched it happen more times than I care to admit. Just watching guys just doing loops in small back bays.
Oh, see.
And then they won't even stop. They just run around it 3 times, decide there's no fish, go to the next one, do the same thing, go to the next one. It's like, dude.
Well, they change it for the whole day. I mean, it doesn't reset until tomorrow. I don't care what you say.
Yeah. And then if you keep doing it over and over again, it's never going to reset. No.
Well, you change fish behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, fish don't school here anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I had pictures and I had a slideshow, and I could show you pictures. I won't tell you what happened to it. But I could show you pictures of a school of redfish that was literally 100 yards long and 30 yards wide. And that's a fact, Jack. I mean, they don't do it anymore because we don't give them a chance.
No.
So.
No, I mean, in the amount of boats like that are on the water these days too, it's just up and up. I mean, I've been out on weekdays where every single flat has a boat on it.
Yeah.
And,
well, I'm not. That's like I said, I don't own any of this deal.
Right.
So I have no preferential right to it, and I don't have a right to tell anybody not to come out here. And that's just the way it is. But I'll give you an example. Paul's Mott used to be a lake that back in the 90s I could go into almost any time and find 3 or 4 really nice, 100 fish schools. And it got to where I never saw a school in there again. And I'm talking about 2018 and 17, 18, 19. COVID comes along and shuts down all the boat ramps. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They shut down, well, let's see, what the heck? Well, no, it was Harvey.
Yeah.
Harvey came along, shut down all the boat ramps except Goose Island State Park. So nobody was on the water for like a week. And after they opened it back up, I went into Paul's Mott. There were 5 schools of fish in there. I mean, the only difference was people. It's like the Instagram deal where the little dog's sitting there and he says, uh-oh, and somebody says, what? People.
Yeah.
I love that one. And some others I won't go into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so, but that's the main focus, though, with FlatsWorthy has been just trying to get information to people.
Yeah, I think, at first I focused on some of the guys that I thought needed talking to the most, and then, they didn't like me, and that's okay. But so you get a group of 15, 20 people, and I don't care how much time you spend with them, you're not going to change their mind because they won't let you.
Yeah.
They won't listen to you. They think but there's hundreds of people that want to know how to do it the right way.
Right.
So let's go to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do, is give information to the people who really want to know. And over time, they'll overwhelm the other ones.
No, I think that's one of the cool things that FlatsWorthy has been doing a lot lately is reaching out to colleges and getting college kids involved.
Oh, that's, I want to get this oyster stuff done, because that's a battle and that's tiring, and I've done this for, this has been a focus of mine I'm ready to get it done parts of my life. I'm telling you. But that's the most exciting thing I've seen in a long time. Now, I will say that our work with the 4-H groups has been a bright star in my life, and working with Megan Glidden and R.J. Shelley and others, Emily DeForest, that's a real wonderful thing. I mean, I just smile every time I hear their names. But I got asked to go to Hart Research and talk to the faculty and staff there, and and to have dinner with 15 of the graduate students. I worried so much about what I was going to, what is the old bohemian fishing guide worn out, go talk to professors about. Oh boy, I need a bucket and a shovel, get me out of this one. But anyway, I was overwhelmed with the graduate students and their enthusiasm and their need to reach out and find ways to get out off of the campus into the community. And we started a chapter there with the graduate students, and I'm really excited about that. That makes me young again, and we're right tomorrow. I'm going to UTMSI and hopefully do the same thing.
Yeah.
So if we can get into the lives in a meaningful way of the graduate students who are the future scientists, they're the future Jennifer Pollocks out here, who is by Joan of Arc. Jennifer, that's what you are to us, and it'll be a great accomplishment for us, and it will, I think, positively influence the coastal life too.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah,
it's a big deal. It is.
No, because one of the things that gets me really excited about is when I was in college, in high school and college, like you heard like I grew up hearing like seeing CCA stickers everywhere, but I never knew what they did. I never had anybody come and talk to us and be like, "Hey, we're from CCA. This is what we're doing."
I thought they had banquets and drinks.
That's what I mean, and I think, I honestly think that that a lot of the younger generation, they want to do more conservation work, and they just don't know how. And I think that a lot of times it looks like a lot of these organizations, they do a lot of banquets and hanging out, and it doesn't really appeal.
That's how you got to survive. They have a staff.
Right.
Everywhere I go, on all the everywhere I go, you can see that CCA has done something important.
Yeah.
Look, we don't have salaries, we don't have staff. And you can see my building, my office building. I functionally pay for all of this stuff. I'm not paid a salary. We run low budget.
Yeah.
Okay. We can come in there and just do some of the smaller things. CCA is so important. I want to be as important as they are.
Right.
I really do. But I can never do that, and we can only do it in a different way of just going around and doing what we can to make life better out here. But I consider them we partnered with them on this oyster question, and that's absolutely the greatest thing that ever happened to us at FlatsWorthy is to partner with them. So we're all here for the same purpose, make this thing a better place.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
we can get into some fishing stories. So I know you've got a few.
It's been so long since I've fished.
So you've been guiding since '93.
Yeah.
And you've had some pretty famous clients.
Yeah.
And personally, I think the coolest clients are you fished with a couple presidents.
I did.
You fished with both the Bushes.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, man. You don't have enough time for all these stories. Probably one of those moments when you wake up.
Yeah.
And you go like, when you hear about it, you go like, yeah, I'll do that. And then as time comes around, you go like, what have I done?
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kind of responsibilities here. And a lot of new features in that, Secret Service, all of the follow rod that goes with all of that. I got a jillion funny little stories, but it was a great lesson with great people. They're definitely unique, and I found him to be extremely personable. I call him Daddy Bush. He gave me so many things. I've got his hat in there. I ought to go get it. I got his hat that he was given when he went aboard the Kitty Hawk. I mean, he just handed me all of this stuff, and I'm going like, okay, I'll take it. But they're treasures. But yet, they're neat. It's, all of that is great experience, but you go take somebody out that's never caught a redfish before, and he's really not talented, and you go make it happen, and that has the same impact.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree with that.
You can't sit here and rank. You just can't rank people.
Yeah.
I've been with people who've had a lot of heart, who didn't quit, who kept working, and I just see different qualities in different people.
No, I've always loved when I get the opportunity to fish with someone that they want it and they've never done it, but they know they want it, and just to make just to see that when you make it happen finally, and just to see the excitement and
that kids, ladies, I've had wonderful experiences with all of those.
Yeah. One day I got to convince you to come out fishing with me.
Okay. Well, I will.
Because, it's...
Not today. It's nasty.
It's terrible today. No, it was... So I went out with Travis Glidden the other day, and it's really cool to sit here and fish the same area, and you start to learn it really well, and the ins and the outs and what the fish are doing, and then to take all that experience, and you get to go out with somebody who's been doing it a lot longer, and they have a different, they can sit there as you're going across the flat and be like, there used to be a post here, and there used to be this here, and it's just, to me, it's really cool to share those places with people that have got just so many hours there that they could never stop telling you about what it was like, or the changes they've seen, and just to really,
I think I've been a yesterday, today, and tomorrow kind of guy. What was going on yesterday, what's happening today, and what's it going to be tomorrow. The real value in the history of a place comes into play when change happens.
Mm-hmm.
And, I see all of this stuff from 1967. I see entire islands that are gone, and I'm talking about everything. The oysters are one issue. But the old saying, how you don't miss what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
So I think the degree that you get upset has everything to do with how long you've been here to know what is now gone. So I have a different fire. I mean, I want it to go. I want people to see what I've seen. I want people to see the things I've seen. And then I think they'll care a little different. Maybe not more, but a little differently than they do now. And there's so many things I'd like to see done that, I actually have one project maybe working that actually might be kind of cool in that regard, but it'll be down the line. But I don't know. I can't quit thinking about it. I used to, I think about what was here. I think about the people, and it's a neat deal.
Yeah. No, I the first time that I ever laid eyes on this place, like on a skiff in a back lake, and really got to see what was here, I was like, this is there's no place like this. And as I've spent time and I've heard stories about how it is now, which I think is absolutely an amazing ecosystem. But then as I listen to stories about how it used to be, it's like, man, what do we need to do to get back?
You just can't imagine. we came to Rockport from Houston. We could have gone to East Matagorda Bay, and we did. And then, we would say, my wife and her family, her father was a great guy, Fred Huffer. And we said, it's only an hour further to Rockport. Why don't we not fish up there? Why don't we just go to Rockport? Because dang water's pretty all the time.
Yeah.
I don't care what it was doing. You go find pretty water,
Yeah.
So that's what brought us here. And then the story goes on from there. But that was the thing that brought us to Rockport. And that's changed.
Yeah.
It has, and that's what troubles me, and that's why I feel so strongly about the oyster deal.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you talk about the recovery time. Like, it's...
Oysters, they're little bitty flat things on the bottom, yeah. You're not going to grow 4 feet of oysters overnight.
Not overnight.
You're not. And, all of the talk, all of the banner about moving, what we do is move the shell out and it covers more area. Well, that's horse manure.
Yeah.
You go back to what I said about the depth of the oyster being the important thing. These are ancient oyster reefs that are lost. The ones I saw in 1967, 800 years old, 1,000 years old, hell, I don't know. But they... and then they talk about, the hurricanes knocked them down. Well, that's horse manure too. You think there was never a hurricane here before?
Yeah, right.
You put like in Mesquite Bay. Pardon me, guys. There was 10 foot of water in there. Well, 150 mile an hour wind doesn't go underwater.
Right.
It created a current, but it didn't damage those reefs.
No.
It might have moved some sediment around, but that's happened before. It's kind of like global warming. You think that hadn't happened before?
Right.
It has. Wake up.
Yeah. No, that's, that was what I was looking at the other day. Like, man, the oyster's been around for 15 million years.
Yeah.
And you think that they can't survive a hurricane or any kind of other like freshwater inflow? They can survive all that if you leave them alone and you let them survive it. But if they go through a big hurricane and then the next day while they're trying to recover from that, you take off 2 foot of oyster reef, they're not going to come back.
No, not, I say it's 50 years.
I think you're right. Minimum.
If you want to grow back a 5 foot differential in the vertical height at a ½ inch a year, given all the other factors that affect it, salinities, all the other things that inhibit or spur their growth. It's Mother Nature. Mother Nature is going to do it, but you got to leave her alone.
Yep. No, I think we're making the right step, and one of the big things, like my mindset towards conservation has always been that I want to one day sit down with my kids and my grandkids and look at them and say, you don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
Because this is not what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And that's I think this is a step towards that, which makes me excited.
Well, and this is not what I have seen. So,
yeah.
I'm not bitter about it. I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
I am, because this didn't have to happen. But that's a whole different story, and we're gonna make it a better place.
Definitely. All right, last question.
Uh-oh.
You got time for one more?
Sure. I might not have a good answer for it.
So this is my my question that I ask everybody when I remember, because I forget things. If you could go fish anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I'd actually like to go right here and go fishing. I hadn't fished in so long.
Just ready.
Yeah, not to be. Really. God, this is a world class fishery.
Oh,
When all the people were coming down from the Mountain West, and I worried about what have I got to show them. They see mountains, snow, all of the wildlife and everything. But they were overwhelmed by the sameness of all of this. And we can't believe it's this vast. It's all the same. And then you go out in it, and it's so full of life. I think a redfish is the coolest fish. I've been here and done that, and I'd rather go catch a redfish on a fly rod than anything else. I mean, I don't want to bring him in. I want to eat.
Just watch him eat.
Fly, baby.
No, I mean, as much as I've been blessed to get to travel and see other fisheries and stuff, this place is always in the back of my mind. When I'm coming home, when I start driving home from a trip, I'm like, where are they at? Where are they going to be? When can I get back out there?
Well, you go out in clear water, shallow water, over sand or grass bed, and you see 4 or 5 redfish, and they're up in a cove doing what redfish do, and you sneak up on them by either walking or in a boat, and you get them to eat. I mean, that's a gorgeous sight. Spartina grass, you got sand, you got clear water, you got good friends, and good behavior will make it even better.
Definitely.
Yeah, cut out the jackassery, guys.
Stop burning shorelines.
No, yeah, no kidding.
Chuck's going to be out there.
Yeah, well, I can't do anything to you anymore. I'm old. I don't have a badge and a gun, but I can talk about it, and I will.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, everything that's wrong, I've done.
Yeah.
I have.
Oh, I know. I've made my...
Just dispel all the finger pointing BS, guys. Don't point your finger at me. I know what I've done wrong. I'm not going to do it anymore, but I'm going to talk about it.
And that's one of the things that I know I've told you, and I tell a lot of the guys I really look up to in the community with everything I'm doing is, if I do something wrong, please tell me, because I know I don't know everything, and I'm still learning, and I'm trying to be better about it. And, I think I wish that was the approach that everybody took is, look, I make mistakes, I do stuff wrong, I need to learn, and you guys got to teach me when it comes.
Well, there are a lot of dynamics out here, and there are a lot of people using it, and there's a lot of self-promotion on social media, and I get all that. If I was young, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd probably be the biggest jackass out here, but I'm not young, and I'm old, and I've seen it all.
Yeah.
I've seen the effects of being wrong.
Yeah.
So it has implications. If we want to keep this as a world-class fishery, then we got to work to protect it.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck, I really appreciate you taking some time out of the day to sit down with me, talk a little bit about conservation and FlatsWorthy. If you guys want to join FlatsWorthy, which I really recommend you do, website's www.flatsworthy.com.
That's it.
So go on there, sign up, and I'll leave links down below for you guys to find it, as well as I'm going to leave links down for the petition to close the oyster reef that we talked about earlier, Carlos, Ayers, and Mesquite. Please sign it. You don't have to be a Texas resident to sign it, do you? No. So all you guys in South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Alaska listening, help us.
Yeah, please.
It's this. There's this idea that Benny, my friend Benny Blanco, put into my head of one community, and with what's going on in the Everglades, what's going on with Texas, and I know there's countless other conservation fights across the country. We start standing up together. We drop state lines, start standing up together, and guys, we can change. We can get what we want. We can protect all these places. You just got to stand together.
Well, there's plenty of room down here for good fishermen if they treat the resource right.
Yeah, and I honestly hope every single one of you gets a chance to explore this coast, because it's changed my life.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. If you haven't already, please leave a review on Spotify, on Apple. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit like and subscribe. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And see you guys next time.